evening, everybody. We have 34, 35. Please be informed that this session is being recorded. So I'm checking if anyone is having issues. We still have new registrations arriving. Okay, I think it's about time we start. Good evening, everyone. And we started this as a partnership between Businessmap and PMI Bulgaria chapter. So we have invited Teodora, who is pretty well known to our audience, to present to us the latest thought leadership on Kanban and maturity model specifically. Teodora, the show is yours. Please, I think you have some questions on how to prepare our audience, so I'm going to share that as a poll. So please, everyone, if you would like to share with Teodora, what are the challenges you are facing in reaching your objectives? Please share with us very short keywords of the most common and most important challenges you are facing, so that Teodora can comment on them as soon as she starts her presentation. We have 2 answers. It's very important. What are the objectives that are being blocked and how we can tackle them? 7 answers. For those who are just arriving, please tell us what are your challenges your company's objectives are being blocked by. Okay, I think we have 7 courageous answers. 8, 10 more seconds. Even just a one word, your biggest nightmare. Okay. So I'm going to end the poll right now so that we can see what we have collected. Teodora, can you see them?
Not yet. I just see the question.
Here it says.
Shall I click share results?
Yes, but where do we see them? I cannot see them myself.
Okay. Okay, we see them in the chat maybe. Commitment, communication, alignment, clear goals, time pressure, knowledge, very heavy corporate structure and lack of communication on different levels, not having focus on business level, economic scenario, adaptability, misalignment, lack of communication, poor engagement, lack of ownership, lack of resources, change fatigue, numerous priorities, global crisis and inflation, aligning resources, time zones availability, lack of efficient communication. So yeah, I don't know whether it's good or not, but we are going to talk about all these points today.
Teodora, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Levent. I think I'm going to tackle all these points. If some of them remains unaddressed, feel free to ask me the questions afterwards, and I will be happy to answer. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so this is the topic for today, how to develop business agility in project organizations. Just a second. So that I have to stop sharing and share again. Excuse me for this, but okay. Let's start from here. And it should work. Okay. So Levent mentioned that we are going to talk about Kanban and the Kanban maturity model. It is true that David Anderson and I had worked on this model for almost 5 years, but I think that at this audience today, the model or the book that is more important precisely for project organizations is the extension of the Kanban maturity model for project organizations. And this book is brand new. It was published like 10-15 days ago, and you can find it on Amazon. So I think that this topic will be more appropriate for project organizations and for people who are managing projects, portfolios, and also projects and operations, because in all organizations, when we talk about project management, it's never only about project management. It is also about managing services work, operations, everything in parallel in the organizations. I am very excited and very happy to have this webinar. This is the first webinar about KPPM and developing business agility with PPM Ops. This is the new topic, the new theme that we are going to talk about, and especially having this webinar with PMI Bulgaria. So thank you very much for inviting me, and let's start. So challenges, chronic challenges for project organizations. My team and I have been working with project organizations for more than 15 years, not mentioning that my background is software development, and I started as a developer, of course, but afterwards I became a project manager. So I have experienced all the challenges, lots of challenges in this profession, in managing projects, managing portfolios, managing large consortiums with participants from stakeholders from different countries with cultural differences. So I have lived these challenges, and afterwards I became consultant, and I started observing the same challenges repeating once and again in the companies. And although for 20 years already we are talking about Agile and the Agile movement, we still observe the same chronic challenges in the organization. So which are these challenges? And some of them you mentioned in the poll which we begin with. So first, those of them that are related to managing projects, products, operations, and portfolios. Lack of visibility of the status of the projects, delays, rework, cost overruns, so very frequently discussed topics and difficulties in project organizations. High and unbalanced workload that is causing part of the, well, almost all of them, but at least part of the challenges in the organizations, changing priorities. And the point with the priorities is that we cannot expect that priorities will stop changing, especially when the world, the environment in which the companies work is changing every day. So simply organizations have to learn to cope with changing priorities. And also something else that you mentioned, ineffective communication, lack of coordination, and this typically goes hand in hand with the complaint that there are too many meetings and too much paperwork in companies, and at the same time the communication is far from effective for the people who manage the projects and the portfolios. Another group of challenges that we frequently observe in the organizations are those related to metrics and governance. Frequently, well, they are very much related to the delays and cost overruns, and typically organizations associate these difficulties, these challenges, to having inappropriate metrics or not having the right data, or having wrong estimates, maybe not using the right methods for estimating their work, lack of data, lack of flow data. We are going to talk about flow now. And of course, if we have not appropriate data, it's logical to expect that the decisions are not quite correct. And these decisions affect the outcomes that are obtained from the projects and at portfolio level. And also another group of challenges, the third one, that is related to enterprise or business agility, because the environment in which the organizations are working, are operating nowadays is changing so quickly and so frequently that organizations really struggle to adapt effectively and fast enough to all the changes in their context. So typically we hear complaints related to very fast changing business environment, difficulties to adapt to it, and therefore customers are complaining that that the organization is not responding to their expectations, to their needs. So this is a kind of need or difficulty that has to be addressed in the organizations. For many organizations, for many project organizations, that they observe, that they share these challenges, if you make a list of all the challenges and you try to address them one by one, just defining different action points for resolving these challenges, typically you will end up with a quite long list of actions, and naturally there is no time, there are no resources, enough resources for addressing, for conducting all these action points. It is important to understand the interactions between the challenges, because somehow they interact, they unite their negative impact on the outcomes of the projects and the portfolios, and ultimately on the business results of the organization. So it is important to understand these challenges and address the root causes for these challenges in such a way that with a minimum effort on minimum actions, we can resolve and obtain improvements that are visible and noticeable at business level. Precisely because if we do not address these challenges, if we do not suggest, define, implement reasonable and effective solutions to these challenges, what is at stake is in fact the business results and also the environment, the working environment in the organization. So for many project organizations, this is a very clear need that they need to resolve these challenges, and they are looking for a solution that will meet these particular expectations. For most of the organizations, it is important to avoid organizational structural changes. This means avoid changes in roles, in positions, in processes, even in vocabulary. For many organizations, it's even difficult to switch to another method, simply because the vocabulary is so different that it creates barriers for understanding and for applying properly the suggestions that come from a certain method. Another important expectations, natural expectations for the companies, is that they need to develop the skills internally in the organization. So it's not about just learning, making a pilot, making a trial with some practices in a team or in a department. It is important to develop the skills of all the people, the skills and the way of thinking of all the people in the organization, in order to be able to see benefits at business level from all the practices that they're introducing. And also very important, it is very important that all the practices are appropriately tailored to the characteristics of the organizations, because always applying, all methods are useful, all methods are wrong, some of them are useful, The methods that are really useful are those that are appropriately adapted, appropriately tailored to the characteristics of the projects, to the nature of the business, to the culture of the organizations, to the infrastructure that the organization is using. So this tailoring is absolutely key for the success of the adaptation of the organization to the new context. And another very important expectations of the organizations is precisely demonstrating the benefits of all the activities that are conducted in the organizations in terms of business outcomes, and seeing these improvements at each step that they're taking in their journey towards business agility. And of course, because organizations always have to do the adaptation, adopt new practices, new ways of thinking, new ways of working in the organization in parallel or together with doing the work in the project. So logically, they expect to adopt these solutions, and that these solutions have low risk of failure, so that they do not affect the outcomes of the project, but they are also easy to be accepted, adopted by the people in the organization, do not cause resistance to change, or at least do not cause very strong resistance to change. And overall, they have a low risk of failure once that the initial introduction has started in the organizations. So if we are working with the organizations, addressing the challenges that we mentioned before that, and having these expectations for the organizations, we always have to, this is at least our experience, in order to succeed with this kind of initiatives in the organizations, we always have to develop in the organizations the right knowledge about how to do the work in an effective, efficient, agile manner. I would say nimble manner, just to avoid the association of agile with particular methods. Then developing the skills in the organization of all the people of the organizations to implement the practices and to make correct decisions, to manage adequately their projects and portfolios, to align all the activities in the organization and to focus them on improving continuously the business outcomes of the organization. And all these practices, all these habits in the organizations have to be supported by appropriate digital infrastructure. I think that the era of physical boards, visual boards, or Kanban boards is over already. So we definitely need to use digital boards, not only because it's more convenient, it's beautiful, etc., but because a software platform like Businessmap, a digital, appropriate digital tool for managing projects and portfolios, provides us all the data needed for making decisions, for making correct estimations, and for obtaining the feedback that is needed for rapid actions and rapid adaptations to the changes in the context of the project. So we need all this information, and precisely the Businessmap platform is providing this fast feedback and fast quantitative information about the project. So this is what we have called PPM Ops. PPM Ops stands for Project and Portfolio Management Operations, and it is a program for the organizations that help them adopt this knowledge, develop these skills, and adopt the practices for managing projects, programs, portfolios, products as well, and operations. In other words, for managing the entire business, all the activities in the organization. It is important to understand that it is not a training course, and it is not a transformation that has a beginning and an end date. It is a program in which we are developing these skills systemically in such a way that the organization is capable to continue evolving by themselves, because they will have already the skills for doing this, for evolving continuously in the changing business environment without the need of external consulting or guidance. The knowledge is based on this model, which is the extension of the Kanban maturity model for project organizations, KPPM, Kanban project program and portfolio management. And in fact, although it is new, it is based on more than 10 years of experience with project organizations. It includes 4 groups of practices: planning, communicating and aligning, monitor and adjust. Maybe lots of people, especially project management professionals, are used to the term monitor and control. We are talking about monitoring and adjusting because it is definitely we have to monitor the state of the projects and the portfolios. However, adjusting the course of the project is more important than just controlling and ensuring that we are completing the project plan. So therefore, we are talking about monitoring and adjusting. And the 4th group of practice is precisely the group of practices related to learning and adapting, creating the skills and the habits and the way of thinking of the organizations that allow them to learn from their experience, to learn through experiments, and to adapt quickly the entire organization or part of it, what is necessary to continue functioning, continue operating successfully in a new changed business environment. So very briefly, this is kind of a summary of all the practices. You see here the 4 groups of practices. In addition, these practices, something that I forgot to mention here, these practices are mapped to developing cultural values in the organization. They strengthen these cultural values. So you can see the practices and the cultural values. And if you are afraid that there are too many practices, therefore they are organized by different levels, you can consider them as levels of progress or evolutionary levels for the organization. So you can always select the practices and cultural values that are appropriate for the organizations at its current state, its current situation. So this is the background of the knowledge that we are teaching to the organizations, and this is the whole teaching. So it's not too much. With respect to developing the skills, because our objective for developing business agility, if we are seeking developing the agility of an entire organization, this means that we have to work with people from all the levels and from different departments in the entire organizations to make sure that we reflect their expectations, their needs from their perspective in the solution that we are developing for this organization. Therefore, we are working with these people in the organizations, and all of them are appropriately involved in the development, in the design and development of the solution for the entire organization. The solution consists in the design and development of appropriate Kanban boards or boards in the Businessmap platform, developing appropriate, adequate policies for managing work, policies for making decisions, criteria for prioritization. So all the guidance that is needed in the organization to all the people from the organization in order to be able to act in an aligned manner all together and running, I would say, because nowadays we are always in a rush to achieving the business goals of the organization and achieving this common purpose of the organization. So there is quite some work in developing and establishing the basis, the background for business agility and developing these skills in the organization. And also, once again, very important that these skills have to be developed in such a way that they last in the organization, and the organization is capable to keep evolving without external guidance. External guidance is always welcome. I mean, fresh ideas, new ideas, or an objective view or perspective about the situation of the organization is always helpful and useful. However, what is most important is that the organizations develop these internal abilities to understand what is the situation of their management practices, what are the opportunities for improvement in this current situation, and then be able to very quickly identify opportunities, define their hypotheses, run experiments, adapt quickly, and keep progressing and thriving in the context in which they are working. And the third element that I mentioned of PPM Ops is the usage of the Businessmap software platform precisely for developing this infrastructure for that enables, that facilitates the business agility of the organizations. What can we expect from this? Just few examples, and of course it's a very flexible platform. If you need more examples, we can talk at another moment, but I just want to show you a few examples of this platform. So let's see this board, for example. I mentioned in the beginning, although we talk about project, program, and portfolio management, it's never only about projects, because in absolutely all the organizations, in addition to projects, we also have some support work, maintenance work, services. We have, for example, sales department, so we have to help them. Usually there is an R&D department, and so people from the operational departments have to help people from upstream or R&D departments. So we always have a mixture of different types of work that is conducted in parallel in the organizations, and it is important to align all these works, that all these flows of work that go through the organization, and manage them appropriately. So on this board, for example, we can see here, you can see a flow of work related to projects, a flow of work related to incidents and support. And here we have another workflow related, for example, if the same people from this department, if we assume that this is a department board, if they also help, for example, their sales department for developing offers or defining specifications for offers or for future projects, so they can see all their work here. This is very important for seeing all the work that is conducted in a department or in project level, because if we only see part of the work, that is all the decisions that will be taken will be also partially correct. So we always, in order to make right decisions about the current situation, it is important at least to have a visibility of what is the current status of work. Similarly to visualizing department work, we can visualize project work, for example. This is a very simple program board visualizing the status of several projects. Really very simple, because you can only see these three columns, projects that are ready to start but not started yet, then projects that are currently in progress, and completed projects. And from about the projects that are currently in progress, you can see, for example, who is the project manager, which are the deadlines, what is the priority. Here you can see orange for high priority, a red triangle for critical priority. Maybe here you can see some key deliverables or phases in the project. So very basic, not much information, but still it visualizes the status of these multiple projects that are run in an organization. This is another board, again, very simple board about the same projects. So just another variant of this example. However, the in progress column is split into 3 sub-columns, and each one of these sub-columns represents the progress of the project. And here we see a column for projects with up to 50% of progress or completion rate, then a column for projects between 51 and 75% of completion rate, and these are projects that are almost complete. The same information, but just a little bit. Another aspect, additional aspect, is visualized on this board. And we can use still another form of visualizing the status of these same projects. However, in this case, we can visualize them, instead of just showing them like in the first example or visualizing the completion rate, as in the second example, we can visualize, for example, the phases from the project life cycle or the steps through which these projects go during their development, and we can visualize for each one of these projects in which step they are currently. So we can get an idea that, for example, these two projects, D and A, are just one step before completion. They're in the final stage, which is training or production, while the other project B, although it's a critical one with this deadline, is still in the, let's say, second from the last stage in their life cycle, which is implementation or prototype, and they still another stage that have to be completed before this project B is completed. So again, a simple board, but you can see different forms of visualizing the status of different projects. This is another example for visualizing projects and deliverables. Very important for all project managers and for all project organizations, because we always start typically from a work breakdown structure, and we want to visualize this work breakdown structure in terms of, let's say, project and work packages and deliverables. So this is just another simple example. Let's say that we have this project which is developing a video course about project management, and this video course is going to include these 5 deliverables that correspond to different modules. So we can see just here, only looking at this initiative level, we can see that from these 5 deliverables, 3 are in orange color. This means that they are in progress, they have started. One of them is blocked, which is this one here, the planning module. We see that one of the deliverables, one of the modules is already green, which is this one. This means that it is completed. And we still have one deliverable in blue, and it means that it is in the blue column in the board. This means it is not started yet. So this is this module. And in addition, we can use colors, for example, color coding for projects. So we can see all these green cards that are deliverables that belong to this green project. We can see 2 deliverables that belong to this red project. So different means for visualizing very quickly, communicating the status of the project. Why do we need this? Because remember, we complain from ineffective communication. So this is a very effective means to communicate which are the projects that are started, which are the deliverables that belong to these projects, what is the status, whether they go well, whether they are blocked, whether they are delayed. Here I have not shown the dates, but you can also visualize deadlines, you can visualize blockages, as I have shown here, you can visualize risks. And then it is very easy to communicate and coordinate it, make actions when all the people who are involved in these activities see the same information, the same situation, and can discuss, and they can go straight to the point and see, okay, if this module, this deliverable is blocked for a reason, what is the reason, what can we do in order to complete it on time and meet a milestone, meet some deadline. And similarly, just connecting different boards in the organization from different departments, different projects, just following the same rules, the same guidelines for connecting information. We can visualize the information starting from project level. Okay, so for example, here we can see each one of these initiatives are represent different projects. These child cards are in fact work items that belong to the boards of different departments, and then these projects are related to a certain program. This program is related to a certain portfolio or a strategic initiative. So when we see this entire information on a board, and we have it always in front of our eyes, or at least the people who make decisions in an organization, they can immediately see, okay, so we have these strategic objectives, and because we have these strategic objectives, we are running this program here, And this program consists of several projects that have to be completed in order to achieve the objectives of this program. Of course, you can add the portfolio level in between. I have not included it just not to overload the image, but now you can understand that when we construct such an infrastructure and we are visualizing, that allows us to visualize the status of work at department level or at function level, at team level, then project level, program level, and strategic or portfolio level. And we can see all these links, these dependencies between the work items at all these different levels. It is a lot easier to make decisions, especially when we see that something gets blocked, there are some risks, or some changes occur either from customer side or from suppliers, or simply changes in the business context of the organization. So if we are able to place all this information on a single board, and all the people who will be involved, who have to be involved in making decisions about how do we resolve this situation, this makes the situation a lot easier. And in fact, this is what brings agility to the organizations, because they have first very fast feedback from the context in which they are working. Without fast feedback, we cannot talk about agility. Agility is all about understanding very quickly what has happened in the context of department work, project, portfolio work that affects the completion of the objectives of the projects and portfolios, then make right decisions quickly. So first feedback, second, make right decisions. If we do not have a correct picture that illustrates the real situation, it's hard to make correct decisions. If we do not have data that come automatically from our system of systems, it's very hard to make appropriate and correct decisions. And then, so after feedback and after making right decisions, of course, it's about acting. It's about doing the work, doing the actions that we have decided that will be appropriate for the organization in this situation. So precisely, we need the Businessmap platform for enabling, for providing all this information and facilitating this fast feedback, decision making, and acting. So together with the knowledge that we are providing and the skills that organizations need to develop, they achieve business agility. You can go to the, maybe you have heard already that Berry Process and Kanbanize, we joined together and now we are a company, Businessmap. But if you go to the site of berryprocess.com, you can still you can see a number of videos and interviews with companies who have applied already this approach. So this is not something that we invented past month and now we are presenting it here. It is based on the experience of many companies. So you can see interviews, you can see case studies, and you can see also additional materials. Here, very briefly, I would like to share with you this interview to the portfolio director, the project management office director of Línea Directa. Línea Directa is the 5th largest insurance company in Spain, and they are working, they are applying all these practices for developing business agility for almost 5 years already. So let's listen to Ana Jimeno Avi. What are you most proud of what you have achieved during these years?
One of our most important or our main achievements is that we have been able to align the strategy with the operation. For us, it's essential for everyone at all levels to be completely aligned. Getting a standard, unified and flexible method and process is also very important because it's the same method, but we keep adapting it. They're not the same policies those we had when we started 4 years ago and the ones we have now. We are adapting them according to our needs. We work with the business teams and the technology teams under the same umbrella, the same method, with the same rules of the game. The cadences implemented at those three levels, operation, strategy, and methodological, are a form. It is already a routine. We already entered a day-to-day, so it's very important to have this part covered as well. And the explicit policies here at the tool level, we have them in Kanban-ized, but we are also very proud of the Agile workspace we created. We have an agility workspace in the Línea Directa wiki where we have all our policies. This is the learning source that we created for the teams so they can learn and so they know where all the collected information is. This is the way they learn how to be agile. Within the cultural change, teams have to understand that they're not alone, that they have support from the PMO team. We wouldn't have enough hands if we didn't have that agile workspace created. The Kanban board system, you have to understand that we have more than 100 Kanban boards connected to each other. We have lots of people and lots of specialists and teams working on these tools, on these boards.
Yeah, you're a big company. You can't expect less if you really want to manage work at all levels and throughout the entire organization.
And the fundamental part, we have a system that we can measure and that we can evolve.
Yeah, so this is an example from a company that has used this approach for developing business agility. You heard Anna, she says that, of course, 5 years ago when they started, they had they started with a certain solution with some policies, and this solution is evolving continuously because they are expanding it and they are adjusting it continuously to the current situation of their business and their organization, and the organization is evolving. So this is really important that they, as they explained it, they developed a system that they can measure and evolve continuously. So very briefly, if I have to summarize how we develop, how we build business agility in project organization, so I would say three things. We are developing the right knowledge for the organization so they can keep growing from this basis. They are developing the skills and they learn how to evolve these skills continuously so that the entire organization grows and evolves continuously. And the usage of the Businessmap platform is essential here because, in fact, it enables developing this entire solution of Kanban boards that are appropriately connecting and are providing in real-time information about the current situations of the project, of the portfolios, all the data needed for correct decision making. And this is what we call PPM Ops and PPM Ops program. So very briefly, if you are interested in some courses about PPM Ops, the foundation courses, you can see the data here and you can always find the information on the website of Businessmap. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Quickly to our audience, if you would like to communicate to us your questions, please drop them in the chat. Thank you so much, Teodora. I think for many, this is very familiar because they are using very similar tools. It's very intuitive. But in terms of any organization that starts using, let's say they start small, right? They don't need to create very complicated because they will get lost. What would be the simplest form this ops can be aligned to OKRs, objectives? And please also tell us on how should they express their strategy in this kind of visual format.
Yeah, therefore I showed you several boards and you see that you don't need many boards and you can visualize even the entire information if it's a small company. I mean, everything from strategy to operations level on a single board.
Yes.
So you can visualize this in a very easy manner. Simply, there are different layers of visualizing the information, starting from department or operational level, then project, program, portfolio. The good point is we are talking about Businessmap, that in the cards for the initiatives, for the projects, and for the programs, you can include the definitions of their objectives. And if the company is using OKRs, so in the cards, they can define the objectives, the outcomes that they want to achieve, and the associated key results. And then this is related to the child cards that are in fact developing, creating the key results in such a way that all the work that is tracked, that is managed at the lower level, at the operational level, the status of the work, the completion of these key results represented by different cards is communicated to the highest levels on the single board or several boards. And this is how they track their OKRs. If they deploy, for example, their strategy by means of OKRs.
Yeah, I had this conversation with Dimitar a long time ago. Businessmap, right? It's the visualization and mapping, and even I saw those arrows when you were explaining. I mean, if you're in the commander-in-chief, right, you're looking at the entire portfolio, and you should be able to trace how they are connected. And I think this is where the real benefits come from, because they are looking for those obstacles that they need to remove, and that's actually the real job, is
exactly
how to achieve the flow in a way, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to open the Q&A. Does everybody have access to the Q&A? Let us have some questions. If you also would like to just raise your hand and express your question, please, you can also do that. You have Teodora here, so you might as well ask a few questions. Yeah, well, basically, this is a very good question, and actually one of my favorite words in your presentation, the testimonial, was evolve, right? So here we have a question on how the job itself, how the project manager has to, because suddenly you are in a visual environment and you don't have to call anyone, ask how everything is happening. You can actually see them. So they will probably become more like a conductor and start moving things around.
Yeah.
How do you think the job would evolve when you work in such a, let's say, dynamic and visual environment?
Yeah, I'm very happy to answer this question, because I know lots of project managers who have evolved, who have grown as project managers. So they start seeing themselves really as managers when they have visibility of the status of work, and they start making management decisions, because without visibility, a big part of the project, at least this is the experience shared by all these people, without visibility, a big part of the time of the project managers is related to requesting information in order to obtain the image, the picture of what is the status of the project. So they have to request the information, or they have to remind people to report all the information needed for extracting the project information. Then maybe they have to make sure that all the data are correctly reported. Afterwards they have to prepare the status report in order to be able to see and of course a report about the status of their project. So imagine that they don't have to do all this work, because it's always on the board.
Yeah,
so
surely. The map is there. You just have to learn how to interact with it. We have a question about the dependencies. This again, I think the trigger between levels is how you stack them up, right? There shouldn't be too many levels, but you still need the workflow level where you can see the tasks, but create enough layers so that you can actually see you can finish part of the flow and then move to the next level and remove
therefore we are working with people from different locations in the organizations to be able to combine all the perspectives and the need of information. And then the project managers, when they have this information in real time on the board, they have the data, so they can focus their attention and their time, because it is important also to use appropriately the time of the project manager or program manager, so they can start dedicating their attention to important things, like maybe discussing some issues with the providers or the achieve completion of some dates, working with the customers, working with in order to ensure that all the teams, all the stakeholders that are involved in the project work in an aligned manner, maybe resolving some issues, some conflicts in order to achieve some milestones or deadlines. And this is really the management work. So they grow as managers.
Actually, as you mentioned, manager, there are many responsibilities in the organization, and it's not restricted only to, let's say, developers or the solution team or the project manager, but the entire organization can be involved. Simona is asking who's supposed to monitor. This is about monitoring the process of, let's say, agile, developing agility. Would that be the CEO, HR, or the project manager? What is your take on what is the appropriate level above the project just before you go to the portfolios in that key, let's say, linkage between strategy and execution? Who do you see playing key roles as in the organization?
There is place for all the roles. We don't, the roles evolve, that's true. And the roles become more management roles because we are taking away paperwork from them and other works that were taking their time, that were consuming their time, but they were not precisely management tasks. However, the project managers keep having the responsibility for tracking the project, for monitoring the projects and making appropriate suggestions. At least they might make decisions together with the teams, but they have to make the suggestions about what kind of changes to do in the projects in order to adjust to the changes that has happened in the context of the projects. The program managers and the portfolio managers still keep their roles because we still have programs that have to meet certain objectives, and they include several projects. So there is a place for program managers, for portfolio manager. What is changing is, in fact, because this is a result, and this is, in fact, the agility that is sought in the companies. If we want to respond quickly, adapt quickly, so all the things happen faster and decisions have to be made faster, information has to be provided on time. So it's not that if we go faster, we are not going to need project managers anymore, or maybe portfolio managers anymore. Just the opposite, we keep needing them, and we are providing the facilities for them working in an aligned manner. And also the next step of growth for these professionals is not simply achieving the objectives of the project, the programs and portfolios, but achieving these objectives in a more competitive manner, in a more cost-effective manner. So improving the efficiency of the workflows in such a way that the organization can become more competitive, can become more cost-effective. So the roles of the project managers, portfolio managers, are not at risk. They will not disappear. They change in nature slightly. They evolve gradually. But all the project managers in all the companies we've been working with, they are happy because they really see themselves growing as managers.
Also, we keep saying project, but actually it's about organization and achieving agility in the entire organization.
Of course,
and once you drop the objectives into the map, right, actually it can be used by any team, any department. It doesn't have to be a single project. Basically, you can run your whole company. I think that's probably where this visibility, basically you can involve all the departments, right?
Yeah, of course. Business agility, enterprise agility cannot be achieved only if we are working or developing agility in one or several departments. And if we want to see really good outcomes at scale, if we are talking about business agility, it has to involve the entire organization.
Yep.
Otherwise, the effects are partial local effects and not necessarily are expressed as outcomes at business level, as improvement of the outcomes at business level.
We're also reaching the end of the year. What do you do at the end when you have achieved all these objectives? How do you kind of start and restart another cycle? How the cycling works, going from one cycle to the next?
You start in the next cycle.
Repeat the same.
Repeat the same and continue growing and evolving.
One of the actually such measurable, everything is measurable. You can actually, even time was there in some of your diagrams. You could see the periods of time. So
Yes.
I think it's really it's the word cadence. We need to create it in such a way that either you do everything in one period, right? Then you repeat the cycle. But even time, the periods could also be part of your portfolio, right? You can say we are going to do certain things in the Q1 and do other things in Q2, right?
Absolutely. And then when we talk about Q1 or Q2, again, we split this work and to have traceability and to be able to keep control on the workflow in smaller periods of time. Yes, of course.
I would still like to invite our audience to interact with us. Is there anybody who's actually using such methods, such as you call it, the boards, right? And haven't used digital yet? Because Teodora was really recommending that we use digital boards rather than, what you have on your wall. How are you working today? Can anybody give examples? Okay, we have already a question. Organizational change management and business agility are hand in hand, if not reach maturity of agility.
What was the question? Let me, I'm not sure if I understand.
This is basically, can we say that? Can we say that that the change management and agility cannot be even talked about if there's no maturity? Maturity has, you cannot introduce in a mature organization. I think this is more of a theoretical question because
management goes all the time in parallel with developing business agility, because if we are introducing changes in an organization, we have to manage the introduction of these changes because we want them to be well accepted, well guided, directed in the right towards the right objectives, to the objectives of the organization. So change, if I understand correctly the question, change management and developing.
Let's say we work in an agile way. We are developing products in an agile way, but actually we don't manage change per se. Let's say there is nobody who's responsible for that. There's no, let's say, preparation. We just go and work, but we don't actually manage how that impacts downstream, let's say. I don't think this will be complete. Yeah.
How do we know whether we work in an agile manner or not then? And how do we know how well we adapt to the changes in the business context? So if we just go and repeat the same thing from a certain moment on, I don't know how adaptable this organization will be if they don't change anything in their way of managing work, how well they will adapt to the changes in their business context. So if they want to adapt because changes keep going, then they will have to make some adaptations in their practices and in their style of management. And if they make some adaptations, they have to manage this change. So I always see it.
Okay, we have a question from Diana. Obviously, our audience loves tasks. They are like taskmasters, task rabbits. So Jira, so many of them are using Jira. How would that integration work? Or would be replacing Jira? Let's say, would you replace Jira or integrate with?
First, I would like to answer and say that instead of tracking tasks, I would suggest start tracking results. Start tracking outcomes, deliverables, products, or if the product is big, then smaller pieces like features.
Believe me, all my clients where we have to work in Jira, I can tell you it's such a micro tunnel vision. You just look at the lowest level. You look at one thing at a time. You cannot see the big picture. Already, I feel lost because it feels like you don't know why it is even introduced. You have to read it. You don't see the connections.
Yeah.
I think it's probably better to consider whether Jira is agile at all.
I don't know. I'm not the right person to talk about Jira.
I can tell you, I'm working with Jira, and I cannot say it is let's say true agility, because just because you put an epic in a story doesn't really let's say allow many people to kind of see how they are connected and how they are downstream. You don't see actually any flow. Flow, I think, is probably not something you can achieve in Jira.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is essential to focus the management activities on managing outcomes, results, products, deliverables, parts of the products. Why? First, because the customer expects these results. So when we have to answer the questions from the customer, what is the status of the product that we are developing, of the services that we are developing, we have to be able to answer these questions. And answering, we are doing these and these tasks, is not maybe the most appropriate answer to the customer. Second, as a business, we are interested in achieving certain results. So we really have to focus this final outcome that we are interested in seeing, in accomplishing. And the task is not the right level. And then about integrating Jira and Businessmap, again, I'm sorry, but I'm not the right person. So please contact Businessmap and they will answer this question. Definitely, Businessmap is appropriate for managing any type of business. We have experiences with businesses in different domains: software development, insurance, banking, industrial companies, pharmaceutical companies. So it definitely works.
Yeah, Dilian, I hope we could answer your question, but basically the visualization that we are talking about here and seeing the portfolio, I think the word actually, maybe the portfolio and flow, these are, let's say, different terms that you cannot really compare.
It's all about creating flow and system.
Technically, yes, it can be done, but the point is, how are you don't want to separate your task from your workflows, from your outcomes, because at the end, why are you working then? Okay, anybody else who would like to interact with Teodora? You have maybe only a few minutes left, or even over time probably. Any closing remarks, questions that I mean, are you interested in continuing the conversation with Teodora and follow her course? Drop us a note, message, and we will follow up. Okay? 10 more seconds if you have any questions. You can also raise your hand and we can allow you to talk. One more. Of course, yes, the recording, we will share it with you. And I think we are going to slowly close here. Teodora, thank you so much. This was only an appetizer, right? It's not it's only a beginning of a conversation. So we hope to see you again. And of course, yes, we will share with you I already recorded, PDUs will be served. If anybody who has entered and is not registered previously, or I don't have the PMI ID, please contact me. I can leave my email here, but I guess you received the invite from me. So thank you so much for participating. Before you leave, please, as soon as we close this session, there will be a satisfaction survey. So please give us your feedback so that we can improve for the next time. Thank you so much, Stanislav.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teodora, and the entire Businessmap team who made this possible. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.